Welcome, friends. This is A Course in Miracles Palm Beach Study Group. Tonight we're on chapter 15, section 6, The Holy Instant and the Laws of God. In the book, it's on page 314 in the text. It is impossible to use one relationship at the expense of another and not to suffer guilt. And it is equally impossible to condemn part of a relationship and find peace within it. Under the Holy Spirit's teaching, all relationships are seen as total commitments, yet they do not conflict with one another in any way. Perfect faith in each one, for its ability to satisfy you completely, arises only from perfect faith in yourself. And this you cannot have while guilt remains. And there will be guilt as long as you accept the possibility and cherish it that you can make a brother into what he is not, because you would have him so. So last week we started talking about special relationships, and this is continuing that theme. And basically what it's saying is that the holy relationship under the Holy Spirit's teaching is that there's total commitment to all relationships. And that means that they're free of guilt. In the Spirit, we only find special relationships and guilt in the ego world, from the ego point of view. But to have perfect faith in every relationship, in other words, faith that the other person is a spiritual being like ourselves. And it says it arises from perfect faith in yourself, because we've been told that there's only one of us, that our brothers are ourselves and we are them. So we have to look at the world from that point of view, from Spirit's point of view, that there's only one of us, and we have to have complete and perfect faith in ourselves as in everyone else. And that erases special relationships, because then everybody is equally in a special relationship, not just some people. Any comments, questions? Paragraph 2. You have so little faith in yourself because you are unwilling to accept the fact that perfect love is in you. And so you seek without for what you cannot find without. I offer you my perfect faith in you in place of all your doubts. But forget not that my faith must be as perfect in all your brothers as it is in you, or it would be a limited gift to you. In the holy instant, we share our faith in God's Son because we recognize together that he is wholly worthy of it. And in our appreciation of his worth, We cannot doubt his holiness, and so we love him. Now, when he says in the first sentence, you have so little faith in yourself, he's saying that in your ego mind, from your in your ego self, you have very little faith in yourself. And you can't know perfect love in your ego self, And so the ego self tries to seek love outside of itself, but it can't be found that way. And then sentence 3, I offer you, that's Jesus speaking, I offer you my perfect faith in you in place of all of your doubts. So that's what he's giving us, is his faith in us. And he's saying, don't forget that my faith must be perfect in all of your brothers as well as in you. Again, because there's only one of us. So in the holy instant, we share our faith in God's Son, that's us. So in the holy instant, we collectively, all of the Son of Man, share our faith in you, in me, because we recognize together that we are wholly worthy of it. And in our appreciation of our own worth, we cannot doubt our own holiness. And so we love ourselves. Any comments, questions? Paragraph 3. All separation vanishes as holiness is shared, for holiness is power, and by sharing it, it gains in strength. If you seek for satisfaction in gratifying your needs as you perceive them, you must believe that strength comes from another, and what you gain, he loses. Someone must always lose if you perceive yourself as weak. Yet there is another interpretation of relationships that transcends the concept of loss of power completely. So again, in the ego mind, seeking for your gain means someone else loses. But in spiritual mind, that is not the case. Paragraph 4, you do not find it difficult to believe that when another calls on God for love, your call remains as strong. Nor do you think that when God answers him, your hope of answer is diminished. On the contrary, you are more inclined to regard his success as witness to the possibility of yours. That is because you recognize, however dimly, that God is an idea. And so your faith in him is strengthened by sharing. What you find difficult to accept is the fact that, like your Father, you are an idea. And like him, you can give yourself completely, wholly without loss, and only with gain. Herein lies peace, for here there is no conflict. We're getting a new concept here in this paragraph. the concept that God is an idea, and that, like your Father, you are an idea. We are an idea in the mind of God. We are a thought in the mind of God. And God himself is mind, is thought, an idea. So that concept may be difficult for some people to embrace, but, well, meditate upon that. Because in realizing that lies the peace. Any comments, questions? Yes, David.
Yeah, since we started reading, a situation came to my mind about, I was over here at a telephone call about somebody bringing food to a party, and they were bringing 2 different types of meat, and the other person who was giving the party said, well, how do you decide who gets the better cuts of the meat? And the other person said, the special people will get the special cuts of the meat. And the woman giving the party says that there is no special people. Take back, we're all special. Take back the meat that you think isn't as special to the store and gets a special meat for everybody. And that kind of, that whole scenario went through my mind as we were reading this thing, that we're all one, and we all should treat each other as one. And you probably.
Yes, we're all equally special in the mind of God.
Right, there's no special, everybody's equally, yeah,
right.
You said it.
Right. Thank you, David. Paragraph 5. In the world of scarcity, love has no meaning and peace is impossible. For gain and loss are both accepted, and so no one is aware that perfect love is in him. In the holy instant, you recognize the idea of love in you and unite this idea with the mind that thought it and could not relinquish it. By holding it within itself, there is no loss. The holy instant thus becomes a lesson in how to hold all of your brothers in your mind, experiencing not loss, but completion. From this it follows you can only give. And this is love. For this alone is natural under the laws of God. In the holy instant, the laws of God prevail, and only they have meaning. The laws of this world cease to hold any meaning at all. When the Son of God accepts the laws of God as what he gladly wills, it is impossible that he be bound or limited in any way. In that instant, he is as free as God would have him be. For the instant he refuses to be bound, he is not bound. So in the world of scarcity, that's the ego world, In the ego world, love has no meaning and peace is impossible, because in the ego world, gain and loss are both accepted, and no one is aware that perfect love is within him. But in the holy instant, when we realize that we are spiritual beings, we recognize that the idea of love in us, and that idea is in the mind of God, and thus it applies to everyone. And when, from that point of view, there is no loss. Sentence 5, the holy instant thus becomes a lesson on how to hold all of your brothers in your mind equally in love, not experiencing loss, but completion. And from this it follows you can only give, and that is love. Giving is loving, sharing ourselves. And this is the natural order of the laws of God. The laws of the ego world cease to hold any meaning at all when you realize that you're a spiritual being. And when the Son of God, that's you, accepts the laws of God as what you gladly will, it is impossible that you be bound or limited in any way. In that instant, you are as free as God would have you be. For the instant you refuse to be bound, you are not bound. We have free will, and the decider within our mind can choose between ego and spirit. And all we need to do is make that choice. Any comments, questions? Paragraph 6. In the holy instant, nothing happens that has not always been. Only the veil that has been drawn across reality is lifted. Nothing has changed. Yet the awareness of changelessness comes swiftly as the veil of time is pushed aside. No one who has not yet experienced the lifting of the veil and felt himself drawn irresistibly into the light behind it can have faith in love without fear. Yet the Holy Spirit gives you this faith because he offered it to me and I accepted it. Fear not, the holy instant will be denied you, for I denied it not. And through me, the Holy Spirit gives it unto you, as you will give it. Let no need you perceive obscure your need of this. For in the holy instant, you will recognize the only need the sons of God share equally, and by this recognition, you will join with me in offering what is needed. The Course has taught us in the past that there is no past, there is no future, there's only now. In the Spirit's point of view. So the holy instant is now, and only the veil that's been drawn across reality, which is drawn across spirit, is lifted. There's this veil that covers our eyes in the ego world, that we don't see ourselves as spiritual beings. And that's what the Course is teaching us how to do, is to lift that veil. And when we do, we realize that nothing has changed, because it's always been. It's eternal. God, spirit, love, peace is eternal. There is no time in spirit. It's just that because the veil of ego has been covering our eyes, that we haven't been aware of it. And then he says in sentence 6 that the Holy Spirit offered that opportunity to me, to Jesus, and I accepted it. And fear not that the holy instant will be denied you, for I denied it not. Jesus says that, we are his brothers and he is our brother. He says that there's only one of us. We are all the Christ. And so by him accepting it, he has accepted it for us. We just have not realized it in our own minds yet. But it's a done conclusion. There's no way that we can be eternally left in the ego mind. The Holy Spirit has given it unto us as Jesus accepted it for himself, he's accepted it for all of us. And so, sentence 10, for in the holy instant you will recognize that the only need, the Son of God, that's you, the only need you share is okay, that we will recognize this as, we will recognize our equality with Jesus and with all of Spirit when we join with him. Sorry about that. Got a little tongue-tied there. All right. Any comments, questions? Paragraph 7. It is through us that peace will come. Join me in the idea of peace, for in ideas minds can communicate. If you would give yourself as your Father gives his self, you will learn to understand selfhood. And therein is love's meaning understood. But remember that understanding is of the mind, and only of the mind. Knowledge is therefore of the mind, and its conditions are in the mind with it. If you were not an idea and nothing but an idea, you could not be in full communication with all that ever was. Yet as long as you prefer to be something else, or would attempt to be nothing else and something else together, you will not remember the language of communication, which you know perfectly. So again, reinforcing the idea that we are an idea in the mind of God, and we need to realize that in our minds in order to have perfect communication with Spirit. And our last paragraph from this section, number 8. In the holy instant, God is remembered, and the language of communication with all your brothers is remembered with him. For communication is remembered together, as is truth. There is no exclusion in the holy instant, because the past is gone, and with it goes the whole basis for exclusion. Without its source, exclusion vanishes. And this permits your source and that of all your brothers to replace it in your awareness. God and the power of God will take their rightful place in you, and you will experience the full communication of ideas with ideas. Through your ability to do this, you will learn what you must be, for you will begin to understand what your Creator is and what his creation is along with him. Any comments, questions? We have reached the end of our lesson for today, so if there are any comments or questions, now's the time. Okay then. Oh, yes, Helen?
I do have to say that I was really, I loved paragraph 4. And I think it was either 3 or 4. It to me was so beautiful. It talks about hope. I understood the paragraph as it read, but I feel that sometimes I don't live it in everyday terms. And so I feel hope in that respect, that what is written down here, a written word, I can find hope in being a better person.
Yes, thank you, Helen. And it's true, you know, the Course is giving us an ideal scenario, and it takes work. We have to just take and internalize these ideas the best that we can day by day in the circumstances that we find ourselves in, and try to put these understandings in practice in our life. And that's just the process of it. That's how it works for all of us. And so there, and one thing that the Course does give is hope, because it says over and over again that this is the way it shall be. Eventually, you will get there. It's always reinforcing that idea.
In the very beginning of the first couple of paragraphs, maybe even the third one, it brought me back to childhood. You know, in some families, you know, our parents did not necessarily treat us equal. You know, they treated us how they felt about their life and how we connected with that. You know, sometimes you get along easier with some child. Sometimes some child are a little more difficult, you know. And so it just brought me back to that. Like there's the yeah, it just brought me back there, that we're taught that we're not special. No, I don't mean to say that. I didn't mean to say that.
Well, some are taught that they're not special, and some are taught that they are special.
Right.
You know, and again, in the family situation, And we have to realize that, you know, all of our upbringing has been in the ego world.
Mhm.
And there are inequalities in the ego world. And there are some parents are better than others, and some parents are more loving than others, and some parents are drug addicted and don't know what they're doing. So, you know, we all have to start from where we are. And the important thing is that, again, now that we're students of a course, the important thing is to leave the past behind and move forward into spirit as best that we can on a daily basis.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Yes, David.
So what's going through my mind as the two of you were discussing, that it's about forgiveness, that we forgive and be in the present moment in the holy instant, and be conscious, pull that veil back, and be present and remain loving and forgiving. There's simple concepts, but hard to get to that place sometimes. To practice it, I guess.
Yes, and thank you for saying that. It really is a simple concept. I mean, the course is hundreds of pages long and very verbose, but if you distill it, it's very simple. And so we're trying to do that in the study group, is to take the complexity and boil it down into the simpleness of it. So just do your best to be a spiritual being, to act out of love, to be forgiving, to be at peace the best that you can, and to understand that you're a spiritual being. Everyone is a spiritual being. There are no special relationships. There's only one of us. And we're all ideas in the mind of God, and God himself is an idea in the mind of spirit.
And I realize that we're all here to help each other because we are one.
Yes.
We have to hold that consciousness, that holy consciousness.
Yes.
Be generous
Alrighty.
with our love.
So thank you all for joining me this evening. Let's have a moment of silence and we'll stop our recording.